Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the John Wristen Show. Here on the internet, here on the Jim Brooks fan page. We'll post it there a little bit later. We're having an issue down at the radio station with the internet outage. So we'll just go ahead and do the show like this, and I'll post it a little bit later. And those who want to listen, John, will know exactly how many people have listened to the show later, but they'll have to find it that way. I'm already getting my phone's lighting up. Where's the show? I can't hear the show. Can't hear the show. Well, I apologize, but that's the way it goes. John, let's talk about the ball game on Saturday, man. A bigger, badder Mankato. They've got your number, don't they?
Well, they sure did this Saturday, and credit goes to a really good Mankato team, and I thought they had a really good scheme and really attacked us well. I think that you can go through the handful of the amount of games we played over 12 years. That it was a challenge from day one to play one, and it was a challenge because I thought our kids were ready to play. I thought we were prepared, but Mankato's a really good team, and we got hit in the mouth and got a butt whooping, and it was very humbling.
Well, let's just talk about the way the ball game unfolded. First of all, Joe and I discussed it in the booth. I'm sure we talked about it in the pregame show. Decision making right off the bat. When they won the toss, they elected to defer. Decision comes to you. Is there any thought, man, should I take this win and go on defense to start the ball game, or do I just say, it's only blowing 10, it's not that bad, let's play some offense?
Well, I thought I looked at the forecast and it was supposed to get better throughout the day, and
which it did.
So I didn't want to let them have the ball twice.
Right.
And that's the decision. Really, is do you let them have the ball twice? And so I went with the normal. We were going to take the ball and see which way they were going to kick, and obviously they were going to kick with the wind and put our have a chance. But my whole goal was to figure out whether we're going to have the win in the fourth quarter, and we did. But it didn't really matter.
Yeah.
It didn't really matter at that point, and I think, if you had to start over again and realize that, maybe you would have rethought that, but I think that decision process went all right.
And then it didn't help matters that you botched the kickoff return. I guess that's the whole thing. You get behind the 8 ball right away. You get behind the chains. It just wasn't going to work out that way with it.
Well, the ball carried on Isaiah, and you watch all year, and that kicker's been kicking it short, and so we moved him up to 5. And I thought, we're going out to win. I said, the wind's blowing, you got to back up a little bit. And obviously he didn't judge it and caught it.
He got turned too.
And the ball came as like one of your old famous curveballs, and obviously we didn't handle it right, and he tried to scramble, and we ended up getting the ball out right about the 18-yard line, and we couldn't do anything with it. And so that was the start of the day, and probably the finish of the day too.
Well, that's what we were joking. We hope the turning point wasn't the coin flip, but as it turned out, they got great field position to start the ball game, and it was really kind of flipped on its head in this ball game. The running quarterback was the great passer during the game, and the passing quarterback was the one running.
Yeah, I thought, you go back to where you punt. We made to make a decision, and so I thought we were going to line drive it, which you did, and got it to the 50-yard line, which was, in those conditions, you thought that was a pretty good punt.
Yeah. Right.
And so then we kind of hold them, and then the quarterback made a really a nice play of being patient, and we fit that, our safety, and Kyle Rosenbach tries to fit it right there, and the kid just felt that crease of a foot. And it's a game of inches, as we talked about. And then he runs off for 34 yards, and we're behind the 8 ball from then on.
I think going into this game, we talked last Wednesday, Jim talked to you before the game, you said tackling was going to be paramount because of how they play and who they are and their size. And this was not one of your better tackling games.
No, and I felt like we could not get off blocks.
Okay.
and get off blocks is get more people around the ball. And the credit goes to the way those big offensive linemen, they got you engulfed, they ran their feet, and they were able to hold you inside legally. And we were twisting and turning, and we felt like we were little rag dolls in that. And that's the first time I've ever felt like that.
It's been a while.
It's kind of embarrassing.
Well, and it is at times, but like Jim and I said on the air, when you did things absolutely right, when you had it targeted right, when the quarterbacks had protection, when the receiver, you were as good as they were, but you would have had to play a 95% perfect game for that to be a different outcome.
And I think the advantage of being a number one seed is that you have a week to prepare.
Oh yeah, and you're home in that crap.
and you have a chance to really dig into a game plan and get reps at what we do, and I think that gave them an advantage. It wasn't the only reason why they won the ball game, but I do think it creates an advantage. And so you go back to how do you get back to the number one seed and being able to do those things, and you got to be perfect.
Well, and the RMAC champion was perfect and was not the number one seed.
Well, you're right, but it also depends on whether your schedule.
So Commerce, the win over Commerce probly would have kicked you up.
Yes,
Okay.
is what I'm saying.
Okay, no, I got you.
And so the things that happen within the 11-game schedule really affect that 13th and 14th game.
Oh yeah.
And sometimes it's hard to take that and apply it to realize that every second you play of the guaranteed 11 games you have is so important. And that's kind of what I see in our program is that, we were able to rally. We were able to manage and do some different things, but for us to go where we want to go and feel so deflated after being 11-2, it's because of the ability to play all 60 minutes and the seconds that you got to play and strain on every game that you got to be able to do that. And hats off to Mankato. They're able to do that.
Well, let's continue on with the ball game. 7-0. It's doable. Get a stop, get the ball back. Unable to do much with it. They get the punt down there right to the goal line. Able to get out, throw the interception. First of all, I guess before that, had the strip at the goal line, which looked like it might be a turning point type of play to get the ball back, deflating for them not to get the touchdown.
Well, they come back in the series right after that is Amu gets another interception where he overthrew. And
you get it at midfield and don't do anything.
We don't take advantage of that. And so shame on us. Shame on us for not taking advantage of it, not doing something that we can do. But their defense was sound, and they were really good tacklers. And
oh no, they brought it.
and so we just weren't able to get that first down to gain some momentum, and that's a frustrating thing about that. And then we punt, and then we make them punt, and then they punt back to us, and we get it right back on the 2, and we get it out.
Yeah, good first down play.
Nice play to Nick, and then we throw a double slant, and you wish you had that throw over. I know Jordan wished you had the throw over and had a chance to maybe throw it to the outside guy that might have had a chance, but those are parts of playing the game, and you gotta manage those things and manage the ebb and flows of it. And that was a difficult transition where we had some opportunities and we didn't seize them, and they did, and that's why the score was what it was.
Let's talk about that pick. Was it a communication error with the receiver, or just Jordan throw it to the wrong spot?
Well, I think that he thought he was looking away the linebacker, and the inside linebacker is the one who's made the play on it. And so if the inside linebacker is on your throwing vision, you want to go to the outside guy. And I think that he tried to force it in there. And so I think it's a combination of if you have a dirty throwing lane, you need to go back to the outside and take your chances outside.
So the half continued on. Then they got what seemed to be like the point, a killer touchdown to go 3 scores up. But to your club's credit, you came out. I mean, boom, boom. 2 quick plays, get right down to the goal line, get it on into the end zone. You get it to 21-7. But I thought one of the key plays of the game was Gunn's run on 2nd and 8 or whatever to get those couple extra yards to get it where it ended up being, 4th and a foot, and they could go for it there. That was a big key decision right there for Hoffner to make right there. Do I go for it? And Joe and I discussed, I was saying, what's the only way you can let them back in the ballgame? We'll go for it on 4th down and miss. Give it to the Thunderbolts at midfield. You have a short field with momentum. Might take it in, make it a 1-score game, but to their credit, they said, we're going for it, and they made it.
Yeah, we could have got that stop at right in midfield. It would have changed the momentum, but, they were able to execute, and it was, right before, I believe you're talking about the sequence right before half.
Right before halftime,
yes. So, those, it's a game of inches, as we've talked about. And I said it before in playoff games, and they won the inches by yards, to say. And but I think the sequence, that we ended up gaining some momentum when they kicked it out of bounds and also had a 15-yarder.
Right.
So we get the ball in the 50, and then we Marcus breaks that nice long run, and we get it down there, and then we score the touchdown on the next play, and that gives us a little spark. But we're not able to make it anything more than a spark. And so my thought of going in at halftime was let's have a way to get it to the 4th quarter. Let's find a way to get it to stop and make a punt into the wind and make a chance to change it. Well, we gave up a 75-yard pass in that first series.
Well, let's set that up for the listeners. The decision, even Joe and I talked about it, when you come out of the locker room, the choice, or you had the choice, so you could either take the ball, let them decide what they're going to do. You decided, no, you know what? Let's take the direction, I guess, basically was what you decided. You said, I want the win in the 4th quarter. Kind of a calculated risk, but you probably felt like, hey, if we're going to win this ball game, we got to hold serve basically in this 3rd quarter, try to get it a 1 or 2 score game going in the 4th quarter, have the win, and then take our chances. Is that your thought process right there?
Yeah, I really wanted us to, again, emphasize about getting this thing in the 4th quarter. It would be a touchdown behind. I wasn't thinking scoring 14. I just wanted to get it to 7 so we had a chance to get it in the 4th quarter. And I felt like our defense was going to be able to stop them. I feel like the defense was going to put it in their hand. And
done it all year.
And so, would I change it over by giving them the ball? I don't know. That's your decision. Because
I thought the only choice for you was which direction you wanted to go in the 3rd quarter as opposed to the 4th quarter. You decided to go into the win in the 3rd quarter, roll the dice, get the win in the 4th quarter. So that was basically your choice. Well, they were going to take the ball.
Well, they were going to take the ball, and so I had to make a decision.
You had to choose which way to go.
Right. And so I was going to say, well, do we gain some momentum in the 3rd quarter? Do we get back into it? Does it? And in my back of my mind, I thought that we were able to go and get it, cut it to 7, get it to the 4th quarter. We got the momentum, and we'll take it to
and get them playing on their heels.
Exactly. And so that's the theory of what I was thinking. Well, the reality tells you a little bit different. That theory is a little bit outdated, I guess.
No, those are just decisions of football that sometimes they work, and they work more often than not for this program.
Well, I think that's a tough decision to say. Do you want to take the win right now?
Without question. That was we talked about it for like 5 minutes leading up to halftime. We were kind of curious as to what you were going to do.
And I've done that before, and I think that's a smart way to do it. But I firmly believe that we were going to gain more momentum by stopping them. And we were going to march it down there and give us an opportunity into the wind. Well, that's what my thought process was.
Well, you got to stop them sooner or later,
right,
to get in the ball game, and it didn't happen. They hit you over the top. And let's just talk about Zylstra. I mean, this guy, he's going to be playing on Sundays, John. I get that feeling. He does all the things. He runs great patterns. He's always seems to be open. great hands. He just seems to
Fast.
do a lot of things
Big.
right, doesn't he?
He's a well-rounded athlete, and he's a physical specimen that can get in and out of cuts and is very explosive, and they use him the right way. they can max protect and double cut moves, and you got to hold that for a long time, and that's what happens is when you leave that kind of weapon and you can't get home on the quarterback. That's a recipe. You've heard me talk for years about that the coverage matches up with the rush, or the rush matches up with the coverage, because if you can cover them, you can get your rush there. Well, we weren't able to get home, and we made a decision not to try to play more coverage than it was to bring pressure. Because of what happened last year, we brought some pressure, and we left some guys on the island. Well, we had them bracketed, and we didn't get over the top of them on the big one, and that's what happened. We got caught flat-footed versus trying to get over the top of them.
Then in the running game, I guess we're going to address the game. Then it kind of got out of hand right there. Just never able to really get something generated. So now we talk about the process of the game, I guess, because you look at their ball club, and they do things right. They kind of remind me of the old Thunderbolts, John. They get up there, line those two tight ends up. They're going to lean on you. They're going to run, and then they're going to hit you over the top of play action pass. Now, is there a thought in your mind saying, man, why did I junk that format? Do you think about that? I know the big problem is finding tight ends and blockers. It's easier to go out and find guys that can run around. But really when it comes down to it, I know in your personality and knowing the way you operate and knowing the way that the national championship won, man, that's kind of, you got to be sitting there going, man, is that the way to go? Or do you even think about that yet?
Well, I think you got to think about it. I think you got to look at it, and I think the way you got to approach this is how do you go win at Mankato? Not necessarily how do you go beat Mankato at Mankato. It's how do you go win in that stadium? And I think you got to be built where you can go and run the ball and not be you got to have a chance to control the safeties. You got to match up. And in all reality, this was a tough matchup for us.
Oh, it was.
It was a tough matchup because I'd rather go play Tarleton. I'd rather go play Commerce. I'd rather go play all those other schools that I know and have seen.
Because that's a speed game.
It's a speed game versus a size and strength game that I don't think we're built for at this time. And I think it's all about the nature of where you're located too. I think the location of them being able to go and recruit those big linemen up there, a lot
of Vikings.
A lot of Vikings. And
the big Swedes.
And I don't think that there's a big speed difference, between the teams. But there is a big, I think, size and strength, and that comes. I think that we got to address the sizes and strength from our future teams to be able to say this is what we're going to do and how we're going to do it and what's our process going to be. And so, yes, I love the way they employed their system. I love the way they were able to manage the game. I love the flow of the game that they had. And I thought that was very well-coached team.
What you got, Joe?
It's the same thing as.
I got to take care of some business.
Yeah, no,
here.
I got you. In moving forward, do you now look philosophy-wise and as recruiting? You always just go look for the best players available. I mean, you always have and you always will because that's what you do at Division II, and then you try and pinhole them into where you think they can be those kind of players. And, you have a really good base for next year. So it's not like you have a lot coming back, which is really a nice thing to have. You're 11-2, and you've got plenty of guys coming back. So now, do you kind of do you go look for guys to stay in the system you have, or do you start to evolve a little bit to the what worked in the past, or you combo, or do you just got to kind of be fluid?
I think I think great coaches and I think organizations they adapt to the strengths of your program. They adapt to the strengths of the personnel that you have. And I think that for us to move forward, I think we got to we got to be able to go and be able to find the matchups that we're going to be able to go in. And I think we caught a Mankato team that was hot.
Oh,
and
yeah.
I don't want to be an overreaction to this thing.
Right.
And I want to make sure that we understand that our guys went and competed, but some games are going to be a little tougher than other ones. And this was a tough game. But I also believe that we have to take a self-evaluation of where we are in the program and where we're going and how we're going to get there, and making sure that we understand this process that we have to do. And so we have to find those matches to our program. And I'm always looking for competition.
Well, and I think you need, and this is just from the outsider who's been seeing the program since 2007, 2008, is you need those pack guys. You need guys, you had a guy out of Fort Morgan who was 2 inches too short, a little heavy, kind of soft coming out of high school. He's the highest paid center in the NFL. And if we always ask, if you could have one guy to go to war with, we know who you're getting behind.
Right.
And that's Ryan Jensen. We stand on the sidelines and we talk to Zach Boyd. And, I mean, look at that. You don't find kids like that. But not only was he a specimen that grew into his body and turned into a great player, he loved it. And you've had, through the years, you've had the Paul Brownings and the Steph Dickens and you've had all these guys that just bleed it from the inside out and took, maybe they were a step slow or an inch too short or too light or in the wrong position, but they evolved as pack players because they loved the game and the school.
Well, I believe we have those
No,
guys.
I know, but those are the guys you got to go find.
Right, and those are guys are the diamonds in the rough that
Right.
you got to go see. You look at James Maxey and you go,
sure.
James Maxey was one heck of an athlete, and he had one hell of a year. And so look at Kyle Rosenbrock, and I think he's gone through his whole career and realized he's only lost maybe 4 football games in his whole, maybe more, but I'm exaggerating from, maybe it's 8 games he was telling me in his whole career. Jackson Wibbles. Jackson Wibbles is a kid that was an All-American that you would have said, holy smokes, this guy's 6'1", and he's playing defensive line, and he's 245, 250, but he had that attitude and effort. And those guys are out there, and those guys have a chance to be something special. And like I said, those are the people and the matches that give you an opportunity to go win against really great opponents. Mankato was a great opponent.
Oh, without question. And do you have that? I mean, I know it sounds silly, but it's like a sixth sense, because you've had a knack for the last 12 years of finding those guys. I mean, is it your? I know you don't want to give away your formula, but your coaching tree is extensive and your recruiting net is very wide. But you always seem to go find a Jackson Wibbles. It's like, all right. I remember Grant Jansen, same high school, prior to, still undersized guy, crazy defensive end, a motor that wouldn't stop. And then years later, you have an All-American in Jackson Wibbles. It's built the same way, maybe not as Mr. Bicep like Grant Jansen, but you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, and I think that's the nature of setting a standard in your program and don't lowering it. And I don't want to be an overreaction and say, God, we're 11-2 and the sky's falling and the whole bit, but there's a certain sense of urgency here. And I'm proud of us being 11-2. It sounds like we're not excited about being 11-2. We are excited, but just the way it ended is a very difficult.
We've only had one of these shows where we've been celebrating.
Right.
But here's the other thing that Jim and I talked about is after the game when we were kind of wrapping up the season, the injuries you suffered this season would have crippled every other Division II team in the nation. I mean, to show your depth, to show your coaching style, to show guys being able to step up or play hurt. Can you ever remember a year where you not only had so many injuries, but so many devastating injuries?
It was a tough year.
Yeah.
It was a tough year on those things. And I think that I go back to our first game. and Dixie. And I believe that game was really spectacular in a lot of ways. We were healthy, we were fresh, we were excited. We saw that what we were made of. I think both offense and defense felt like there was a very common bond there that we were going to be very good. And then you realize that you had some injuries that happened in that game where you lose
First play of the game.
Fagans and
you lose Fagans, and then you lose Will Hefner, and then you lose 2 offensive linemen that are going to be dinged up the rest of the year because they have a turf toe, they have a broken toe.
They can never heal.
And it's never be able to heal. And then you go to Chattering and you go, okay, we're all right. That game's pretty smooth in transition. And then you lose Deontay Sykes, and then that's another playmaker on the outside that you go, holy smokes. And so then you're going, okay, where do we go? How do you manage it? And so we played to the defensive strengths, and we've got a little conservative, and we were able to find a way to get it to the 11th game with us having a chance. And so the management of the ebbs and flows of the injury process is a difficult one. But you got to have depth, and it goes back to our recruiting. I believe in competition. I believe competition makes me a better coach.
That's your quarterbacks.
and so I think that helped us smooth that transition with being able to see some depth of a Max Fine or after
Jaimin O'Neal.
Jaimin O'Neal and the Nick Williams that we had a chance to really showcase. And
you went into Mankato without Deontay Sykes and your leading rusher, DJ Pennick. I mean, they didn't even make the trip.
Right.
And, okay, so talk about going against a brick wall without your best hammers.
And
that's just more of the same injuries, illness, attrition, all that stuff came into play probably more so than I remember in the last 12 seasons.
Yeah, and I think we stayed relatively healthy on the defensive side,
yes.
And it showed. I mean, we lose Jamal Sears in safety, and then Amu got healthy and was starting games for strength, and then Corey McClellan was unbelievable as a freshman and being able to do that, and it's the season, right? It's a season, guys. It's a season of being a football coach that you got to manage those ebbs and flows and have a next man up mentality. And I think our guys were able to do that.
All right, we got some questions that we had lined up before we went on the air tonight. Or not on the air, but before we were scheduled to go on the air.
Is this tape delayed?
Yeah, we're gonna post it later. So this is live to tape. It's gonna be it's like a podcast.
It's gonna be on the line.
You ever done a podcast?
No.
All right. Well, this is your first podcast tonight.
Good.
All right, Kevin Stavely from Wyoming up there in Gillette, our super fan up in Wyoming. Not a question, just a comment. Wants to thank you and everything you've done for building a great program for everybody in Southern Colorado to get around.
How about these people showing up at the airport Saturday night?
Yeah, it was great to get a send off and a great welcome home.
Yeah.
So it was awesome.
All right, the next question, we have a comment. Well, hey, Joe, it's for us. Great job, Jim and Joe, on your announcing.
Hey, that's not from John.
Rumor has it that the champs, the 2014 team, is going to play the current team in flag football sometime in the spring. Who do you predict will come out on top? Will you be coaching either team? Will fans be invited?
I hadn't even thought that far yet. And there's someone on the
That's the last thing we need to do is lose Deontay Sykes to a knee injury in a flag football game.
We are not going to play the 14 team
in
flag football. We'll let the 14.
Why don't we have the 14ers play the 11ers or something?
That's exactly what we're going to do.
Yeah,
the 14
okay.
16 because
here's
there's
the
too many.
Yeah, too many
All-Americans on that field.
But
Right,
here's
exactly.
the great debate about that. And John he can't comment. You and I can.
Yeah.
But the 14 team has the natty. You know, they have the ring to prove it and the banner.
Yeah.
But was that the best team in the last 12 years?
I thought 13 was pretty darn good. I thought 11 was pretty good.
I
thought 13 might have been, just unfortunate.
Yeah,
That was a pretty darn good
That's
team.
a good team.
And okay, so let's see what else we got here. In regard to major injuries, this is kind of a deep question here, and physical therapy and injuries. Are student athletes covered by health insurance through the school or the NCAA? Do the players get stuck with any personal expenses?
Well, the players have to be covered on their own personal insurance, and then there's a whatever they have that covers up to a certain policy number. Then our policy kicks in. So yes, there are some expenses. You meet your deductible. There are some of those things, but it's capped. It's not a major one, but they're capped. But there are some personal expenses.
Okay, that's a good question and good to know for people. Another one, people, it's the sexy position, John. It's quarterback. People are already wanting to know. I've had 3 of these. We'll just address this one here. This is listener 6, but I had a couple others come in here that I don't know who they are. They want to know who's going to be the quarterback next year already, John. They want to know who it is.
So do we.
Now, I guess the big question is you got to get both these guys completely healthy. Gunner with some issues with the concussion deal. Now, he didn't play in the second half. Now, that's another question. What happened in the second half where he couldn't play?
I think we made a mistake. I think we should have played him and had a chance to play him. So I think that's a coaching error, and it falls on me. And I think that you got wrapped up with trying to do it and get it going, and so that falls on me. That's a coaching error on me, and I take full responsibility for that. And I wish I had that over again. But
And Jordan never really got healthy.
No.
You know, you could see his footwork, his movement. He never really got healthy once he got hurt.
Right. And so, he made some big plays with his legs and scramble. I mean,
he tried.
At Augustana, he did a great job
Yes.
with that. So, I wish I had that call over again.
All right, and then offensive line. People want to know, is there, I printed off the roster here. You got 5 guys that were true freshmen, but we all know offensive line, you just don't go from true freshman to freshman or redshirt freshman all of a sudden being able to contribute on offensive line. Offensive line comes with experience. Then, John, when you're juniors and seniors, that's where you need. So, first of all, you got to get the guys that were on the line this year healthy.
Yeah.
That's number one. But is there any kind of situation where you now go out and say, you know what, I got to go look at a JUCO offensive lineman, or is it just that way every year? You say, you know what, I'm going to take a player. If a player's available, I'm going to look at him. I'm not going to go out hunting.
Well,
or is this a special case where you have to go out and hunt a little bit?
I will always take a great offensive lineman. I will always add to our depth in the offensive line. I think as you go through this is that we had some attrition there that we weren't planning on, and that really cost us some depth and as we got hurt and being able to do those things. And so we will recruit the best offensive lineman, whether that's a JC or a Division I transfer or whatever. But we're going to recruit, and we're going to get bigger, and we're going to get stronger. And we only lose one guy, and that's Dan List. And those guys are hungry to perform and get better. So.
But you also said, and the listeners need to know this, and the viewers need to know this, that's the hardest position to recruit. Because if you're a decent sized kid and you have football potential, you got the D1s, you got the FCSs, and then you got they don't grow on trees.
There's a shortage of offensive linemen in the state of Colorado.
Well, there's 2 guys at the press conference today for the high school game you'd like to have on your offensive lineman. One's going to K-State, and I think one's going to BC. That's the
right.
Palmer Ridge kid. So,
yep.
But we got the hot mic question. Charlie, are you ready to roll?
I am.
All right, what you got for us, buddy?
Hey, Coach, you guys may have already talked about this, but you got another player named an All-American. I don't know if you've talked about that or not. That's a big deal.
Well, thank you. We had our second consecutive year, Jackson Wibbles, of being a defensive lineman, All-American in the AFCA, which I have a lot of respect because that's done by all the American football coaches in the region. And so thank you for bringing that up.
And,
appreciate it.
Jackson Wibbles, I did a little post, just put his picture up and said relentless.
Yeah.
That's the best way I can describe him, John, because he does not take any plays off. He's got the old school, all fingers in the mud, or in this case, artificial turf. But you don't see guys go in that stance very often anymore. And the Delta defense is out there. Everybody's up, but not Jackson. He says, I'm in the dirt. I'm ready to roll.
Yeah, he's a kid that we came here, and I didn't know whether he was going to be a defense lineman. I thought he was going to be an outside linebacker based on his size. And I remember first couple days, he just looked like a fish out of water in that outside line. So he said, well, let's put him down there with the hand in the ground and watch him go. And he's never moved since. So, we experiment with trying to move him to a outside linebacker spot. But the reality of that theory was saying that's not good. And so the reality of that, he was better at putting his hand down. And I credit his attitude. I credit his work ethic. He's a football junkie, and it comes from a football family. And I'm very lucky to be able to have a chance to coach him.
You want to know the respect Jackson Wibbles gets? I watched after the game Saturday, and about 5 Mankato offensive players, as he would go by, stopped him and hugged him. Because he's been there a few times. Now he knows Mankato as well as we do. But you could tell that they know.
They respect that.
And I like the FCA because they kind of looked everywhere. It's not one team dominating every position or every school. It's kind of nationwide, and that was a really good mix.
Yeah, I believe that it's done. You got to be in your regions and be able to manage that. And so,
who else? Tariq Bitson from Adams State got second team. Anybody else get first team?
I think
a defense.
Mesa,
Riccio or I don't know.
Cunico or something.
Something like that. Good Paisan kid.
Right.
Okay, and our final question, John. Listener wants to know: is there a freshman that didn't play this year, a true freshman? It's been sitting out, running through the scout team, doing all the drills. Give us 2 or 3 names to look for next year that you say, you know what, this guy can't miss material. What is it? Is there somebody already there you're saying, man, I can't wait to get this guy on the field?
Well, I think.
Or is it too early?
I'd like to make that announcement after spring, but I think we recruited, I really believe, well on our defensive line, and so I think those young guys are going to be really, really pretty good. But I'm not ready to endorse anybody.
No.
A lot of things can happen.
Wounds are still fresh, brother.
And we got some young, speedy wide receivers that I think have got a chance, and I love the quarterbacks we recruited. So I think there's a wide receiver that really did some good things against our scout defense, or against our defense and the scout offense. And so, I think those guys are they're going to be great packed players, but they've only been here one semester yet. They haven't even been here full 15 weeks. So for there to get their name on the radio, they got to come earn it and do those other things.
So sorry, listener. That's the way it's going to be. But
what coach was that?
Yeah. Let's go ahead and transition, John, into what we expect. What's on your plate now until spring ball? Obviously, recruiting. You're probably when you lose at this point, it gives you a couple extra weeks to get out there in the field. I guess that's the one advantage of things. You have guys already on your to-do list. I've got to get this guy. I got to get this guy. You're the power closer is the way I like it. Your assistants go out and do all the recruiting, right? Or a lot of it. And then they say, they come to you and say, John, this guy, this guy, this guy.
Well, I like to try to get in everybody's home and then try to get a feel for them, and whether it's a good match or not. And so the reality, I got a home visit tomorrow night. And
now, do you have early signing?
No.
Okay.
No, we don't have early signing, but we're gonna. I got 6 coaches up at Valor Christian tonight, and
that's okay.
Yeah.
And so,
well, the tuition's more there than CSU Pueblo, isn't it?
There's
jab. Just kidding.
Yeah. There's a recruiting fair going on, and so we want to make sure we cover that and represent our university. But right now, I think this is uh, a chapter that you go, you 11-2, and you're disappointed. So you got to look at all that. And we've done some um, self-evaluation, and I call it some cleansing too, and making sure that we can move forward and grow from this. And not that it's ever going to be perfect, but you got to have this opportunity to say, I want to grow, and I want to have reflection, and I want our coaches to reflect to say, what did we do good? What did we do? What can we do better? And what do I need to really work on? And I think we had having meetings like that, and not that I'm always right, but I always believe that if you're one accord, you can accomplish a lot. And I don't want us to not go and put our head in the sand. I want us to be able to grow and get us on one accord. And I think we are. I really do. I don't think it's an issue, but I do think that we got to reevaluate that, because you got to define who you are and where you're going and how you're going to get there, right? And so the only way you can do that is ask those questions, and you got to identify some of your weaknesses to make them strengths.
Well, you don't have a whole lot of time. Have you seen your schedule next year, John? Have you seen those first 2 games? Just thought I'd kind of
Thanks, Joe.
give you something to think about over the holidays.
Yeah, it's a blessing.
And a challenge. I mean,
that's the blessing challenge, and as a head coach, you gotta get up off the ground and go. You gotta get and you gotta embrace these moments to be able to say, this is your time to lead through adversity. This is a time to put a trademark on how you want it and get it guided down the right way. And so I embrace this, and I look forward to these challenges, and I look forward to helping us grow and these young guys to become great college graduates that can help us go and compete at a high level. And when you're one of the top 16 teams in the country, that's pretty damn good.
It is.
But when you get your lip bloodied a little bit and you walk around the block, it doesn't feel very good too.
All right, you were fortunate last year. No real major staff changes. Are you looking at that right now, or are you even ready to comment on that?
I think it's way too early in the game.
Because you don't know who's coming to poach you.
No, I don't know that. I know,
In other words, nobody's turned in their resignation.
Not
this
that
week.
I'm aware of.
Okay.
So
you haven't got that letter yet.
I haven't got that letter yet. So.
Well, and
I'm usually the last guy to know that anyway. So when you're usually the last guy that people are leaving or doing those things, it's probably for a reason.
Yeah.
All right.
No, and change is good sometimes. I mean, it's a natural progression. This is a nomadic profession, and the AFCA Coaches Convention is coming up, and that's like a job fair.
Right.
They have all these clinics
Right.
and speakers and everything, but it's basically a job fair.
Yeah.
Assistants changing places, guys looking for opportunities.
Or you call it a network, and sometimes you're trying to network to find who's going to be down the line.
Because it's
You
dominoes.
try to get your list.
Yeah.
And I used to have a great list because I knew a lot of people, and
Right.
because they're working with and have different connections. But when you stay at one place and you got to go, all my guys are getting too dang old,
Well,
and be able to find some new younger guys.
Okay, and one of the questions also I remembered somebody asked me about it, John, was we know who the seniors are that are leaving, but you had 3 or 4 guys that you might file for hardship on, or you might be able to get another year. I know Deontay Sykes, I think he has another year,
Right.
no matter what. They found out where he's actually got a chance. Question would be Jensen Fagans, is he going to want to come back?
Yes, I think Jensen's going to come back.
He wants to be a coach someday, that's in his blood.
Right.
With his dad, so another year to kind of coach. And he kind of did that this year. I thought he was into it.
Yeah.
Every game, it seemed like. You got to be proud of a guy like that.
Yeah, he was able to stay in it, and I wanted to be involved, so I gave him some special projects in the office, and he did a nice job with all that.
And I thought, just a personal note, I thought it was kind of a class move that Tanner was on the trip.
Yeah.
I'm a Tanner Draper fan. Guys had a rough one.
Now's there a chance he comes back?
I've known him since he got here.
Okay.
But he is, for him to be on that trip and trying to keep the guys up, and I'm just,
Well, yeah, I think you got Corey and Tanner coming back. You got a pretty
that's
good,
some great safeties
pretty good
right
safeties right there. It's going to help that defense grow.
there. Hard hitting safeties.
So I think that takes care of all our questions. Just looking down the list here of other players that might be in that situation. I guess Hefner and Shaver, they're pretty much done, right?
Correct.
All right. So, but it was too bad that it didn't work out the way you wanted it to for them to get a lot of extra games on the field. But we thank you for your service and thank you for coming in and participating, I guess. But they tried. That's all you can ask a guy to rehab to get in there and get hurt again. It's got to be tough.
Well, you take Will, and he gets hurt in the first game at Dixie, and he's had a lot of different packages that were going to be part of that. And then Christian Shaver, he got dinged up in camp. That was, I don't know if he was ever 100%, but and then he plays a great game at Commerce and gets a high ankle sprain, and combination of that, and he wasn't able to play until the 11th game of the year, along with Will. And so,
and he was here for a year trying to make.
I know.
You got to understand the path that Christian Shaver took to get here to finish out Saturday at Mankato was a journey.
And those two are great ambassadors of our program. I think they're great kids, and those are exactly what the type of kids that we want to have in our program.
All right, John, coming down to the end here, let's just go ahead and put a bow on it. Talk to the fans here. Tell them everything you want to tell them and what we look for the future of Thunderbolts football.
Well, I want to say that, Rochelle and I would love to wish everybody a great Merry Christmas and a great New Year in 2020. And I want everybody to realize that winning is hard. And we are a damn good football program. And I think that I don't want anybody to take that for granted. And it's we're disappointed that we're not moving on and playing. But the reality is, in my opinion, is when you can win 11 games and you're disappointed, I think you're on the right track.
That's right.
And I love the fans. I love the support that we've got. We got to continue to grow, and I encourage to bring your neighbors and friends to be a part of what I think is really, really special out here. And we have great kids. You need us to do any community service, be in the schools, we're all in on that. And that's the things that we try to wrap our hands around this great city and this village that helps raise this program. And so I'm excited. We got some challenges ahead of us. It's not going to be easy, but nothing ever in this world.
It isn't worth it if it is easy.
If it's not easy, if it's hard and you have a chance to go do that. And Tunder's staring me down right here. She's going to bite my hand.
You got one left.
So.
I got to make sure that didn't knock our cable. I thought that was Bill Sabo coming in and bumping into the table. He's been known to do that before. But, all right, John, we thank you. I mean, I'll speak for the community, for the listeners. We thank you for everything you do for us. You come here, you do the show with us, the viewers and the listeners that come here and watch the show. Joe and I, you make our lives easy. We're easy to get along with. We can take a punch. We know you can take a punch as well. And we just want to thank you for everything you do for the university, and we look forward to it. Come by and see us during the basketball season. Come courtside. I'll put you on. We'll get an update on some of that recruiting.
Well, it'd be an honor, and it's what a great jobs we have, and it's been a lot of fun, and we're not done yet.
Heck
man.
no.
We're not done. So.
All right, Joe, you got about 20 seconds.
Hey,
wrap it up, buddy.
It's been a pleasure. I've been part of this train since 2007, man, and the only guy I know that's been with me the entire time is the guy who's coached the show's named after. So it's been fun. We've gotten to know each other, and
you got a couple years on me in this show.
We've had some great times, and we've celebrated some really, really fun wins, and we've kind of bumped fists on some really tough losses, but we're still here. That's right. And I want to thank all of our listeners. Sorry we didn't get on the radio tonight, but we'll post the show, and you'll be able to watch it in its entirety. Commercial-free. John Wristen's first podcast. Thanks, everybody. Thank Thunder Zone Pizza and Tap House, all of our sponsors. Good night. Go Pack.